We're good to go. Welcome to TWIG, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show that tackles everything from the DICE Award results to maybe no Nintendo Switch 2 with some games in between. If you're listening on the podcast version of the show, be sure to give us a good review. Click that like button if you're ever on YouTube, or come and listen live on Twitch every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Folks, normally it is just me on this show or a level 2 member on this show, but today we have a special guest with us. And so we're going to start our show as we always do with our Watch, Play, Reads. What have you been up to? What have you been watching, playing, and reading? And I'm going to let our special guests first introduce themselves, where they come from, and then what have they been up to in the Watch, Play, Read arena. So take it away, special guest.
Hey there, my name is Steve Valdez, SavePoint Steve on Discord. I am the founder of SavePoint Ministries. That's what this sign is right back here. And we're just a ministry that, much like Checkpoint, wants to let you know Jesus loves you, how important and wonderful you are. Also, a big part of what we do, though, is we find what's called nerd-friendly churches that are loving and accepting of nerd culture, and we help people that want physical church plug into a physical church. That's me. Hey, I also stream. It doesn't matter. What does matter, though, is I'm going to start with what I've been reading. I have been reading the most recent book in the Inheritance Cycle, well, a spinoff of the Inheritance Cycle called Murtagh. If you guys have read the Aragon books, they are very good. They're really great high fantasy with some really unique takes on magic and how it works and lore building and whatnot. This newest book, though, Murtagh, is about one of the side characters within the Inheritance Cycle. Now he's the central character. And as much as I'm enjoying it, it is also a little frustrating that I'm a little more than halfway through the book, and the Dragon Thorn has done a little bit of nothing for for a little more than half the book. It's just, for a Dragon Rider is a series about dragons. His dragon's mostly just been a voice in his head throughout this, but I'm, again, a little more than halfway through and really enjoying it, though. It's a great book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds a little bit like the Upset with Madam Web, too, where I think they're like superheroes for like 10 seconds, and then the rest of the movie is exposition and drama. So, yeah, that's fun.
Madam Web
you
is
said
one
you've
that's
been reading. What about watching and playing? Anything interesting, fun?
Yeah, so playing, I had just finished a Super Mario RPG today on stream, and it was this incredible, glorious, nostalgic run through my childhood. I played the crap out of it when I was a kid. I was delighted to see that there is post-game content that I beat it today. I fully expected to have to do something else on stream, but I beat it, but the post-game content is just these, like, the bosses, a lot of the bosses are back and way powered up. And you go back, but if you beat them, you get the best weapon for each character in the game. And so I've been going back and attacking these bosses and jumping back into it. The game itself it never takes itself seriously. It's so much fun. And there's like an action timing part of combat that really makes it engaging in a way that a lot of turn-based RPGs are not. And it still makes it way fun to be involved with the combat. And so it was phenomenal. I loved every second of playing this game, and I'm going through all of the post-game content right now. Been a lot of fun. So what I have been watching, I just finished Blue Eye Samurai. Very M-rated, whatever, just a huge content warning on this. But it is also a outstanding callback to a lot of classic samurai films, revenge films, with a few fun twists and turns in there. Great story about honor and revenge. A lot of flavor of things like Count of Monte Cristo in there as well, of like who does revenge hurt the most. And so great series. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I've been comparing the stylistic choices in it of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but directed by Quentin Tarantino. Like that's the kind of like comparison vibe behind it, and I'm here for it. I haven't finished it yet, but it's been quite a delight. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
High up on the recommendation list. Let's see. I've been at Disney with 2 kids under 5. So we went to Disney World and had a conference. So I've been watching nothing but the back of my eyelids. That's why I put that on the dock there, because
I see that.
oh boy, I did not realize. Like I knew I knew, but I didn't know. You know, there's a feeling of dread. And then whenever it actually happens, it was so much better than I could have ever dreamed, but it was also exactly as bad. And so it was very tiring. I was so exhausted. The full story was that we were going to go to do this new thing, or I don't know how new it is. I'm not real into Disney, but there's like after hours now at Disney, and it's only like twice a
Oh,
month, and it's at two different resorts. And so there's maybe an after hours at Hollywood Studios, and there's one at Epcot. We just so happened to line up one perfectly at Epcot. And so we did the after hours thing. And the way that works is you pay, I think it's about the same price as a normal ticket, honestly, but it's from 10 to 1. You can show up a little bit early. That's at night, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. You can show up a little bit early right before fireworks. And they only sell like 3,000 tickets as opposed to the like 34,000 or whatever they normally sell. And so my wife and I did that. We had a blast. We stayed up all the way through the night. And then that had been on the docket and on the plan, but we learned that Sunday it was going to rain and just be a total like monsoon washout. That was when we were supposed to go to Magic Kingdom. So instead, we moved our tickets to Friday. So we wound up doing Thursday night Epcot until 1 a.m., wake up at 5 a.m. and take two girls to the park until fireworks. And so Friday night, I just crashed.
yeah, understandably.
It was
Jeez.
brutal. It was brutal, but it was so much fun. And it's memories that they'll never forget, or even if they do forget them, I will never forget them. And
Fun
good stuff.
fact about me, I lived in Southern California for 6 years, about 10 minutes away from Disneyland, and had like the season pass and whatnot. And so me and my friends would go, this was during college, we'd probably go twice a week. I tell people I majored in preaching and I minored in Disneyland. So it was the best way to experience it though, because we'd go for like 6 hours at a time. We just go after classes and then stay till close, and that's about it. So there wasn't like the need to be there the whole time all day
Right.
and absolutely exhausting yourself and whatnot.
Yeah, we crunched as much into one day as we possibly could. So I can imagine being able to parse it out a little bit would be a whole lot more pleasant of an experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did get to do the new Guardians ride for the first time, and I think that's my new favorite Disney ride. I think that's gonna take the cake for me as being my new number one. It would probably have been like Space Mountain before, but now I got a new favorite.
Haunted
Um,
Mansion's my jam.
Haunted Mansion, yeah.
Yeah.
We have the Scooby Doo Mansion not too far from us in a little park called, not a little park, it's a pretty big park called Carowinds here on the North Carolina South Carolina border. And so there's a Scooby Doo Haunted Mansion. It's so good.
That's a thing?
Yeah, yeah.
My man, I want that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's real fun. It's a real good time. It's very similar. It's kind of like a mixture, honestly, between like the Buzz Lightyear gun shooting ride and Haunted Mansion, and a little bit of
Oh,
LMA Column B. It's a real fun one. Yeah, it's
man,
good
I gotta
stuff.
hit that up sometime.
Used to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
owned by Paramount, and so they had all the like Nickelodeon stuff, and then I
Mhm,
think they
mhm.
either sold it or something happened. But good times. Carowinds. If you want to talk Carowinds, I'd love to go again. I've been playing so much Slay the Spire because that is a great game to play on the go. And so I have been so incredibly busy traveling, going from place A to place B, nonstop moving. So I've been playing a whole lot of that. I think I'm like not too far from beating it, which I didn't think was like a thing that really happened. But I looked up just out of curiosity of like, how does this game end? Can you beat it? And so I'm pretty close to maxing out. I'm on the third of four maxed out characters at this point. So I think by
Nice.
the time I max out the final one, it'll like unlock the last thing. So super interested in how that is going to end, and it's been a really good one.
Okay, so so this Spire still holds the record for the game I have the most hours in, like 1,800 or whatever. But that's just 'cause I did the dailies for a long, long time.
Hmm.
As far as actual playing the game, it used to be the heart. You can get to the heart. Is that still beating the game, or is there more now?
So you mean like finally like beating the heart, right? Not just like hurting the
Yeah,
heart. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Beating the
there
heart is
unlocks like a final corridor. So like there's three acts or whatever. The fourth act unlocks whenever you get to a certain point with the three main
right.
characters. And
Yeah,
I happened to max out the fourth character first because I liked him so much. So
the Watcher is
I've got to
great.
work on the other two, but
Yeah.
it's been really fun. I've gotten super addicted to it, and I really enjoy the play styles. And
Yes.
all the people
So
that
good.
recommended it to me whenever I was obsessed with Inscription, yes, absolutely. Like it is so much scratching the same itch as Inscription did. And I may have to go back after I do beat it. I may have to go back and play some Casey's mod because I want more Inscription now. And
Mhm.
then reading, I have finished another of my 1001 books to read before you die. This was Perfume: The Story of a Murderer. Wow, that was a weird book. That was one of the strangest books I have ever read in my entire life. I mean, like, Hannibal Lecter ain't got nothing on the just weird writing and looking into the head of this character. It honestly reminded me a little bit of Clockwork Orange, which I've only seen,
Oh
I've
yeah.
not read. So I'm super curious. That's also on the 1001 list. So whenever I read that one, I'm curious to see if it's worse or better, because man, that was a strange read and just weird characters all around.
I haven't read either of the books. I've watched both of the movies, and the Perfume movie is weird. Real weird, man. And so
Yeah.
it's one of those ones that I watched once and I'm glad I experienced it. I don't ever need to watch it again, and I don't know that I would recommend it to people. But it's just one of
That's
those that, like,
fascinating.
I know that I'm happy that I did experience the oddness of this film.
Yeah, I'll have to go. I didn't even know there was a movie, so I'll have to watch the movie and see how they adapted some of the scenes, because there are some that would be, yeah, a little too much for television. It'd be a lot. Yeah. Very curious stuff. Let's see. Go through the chat a little bit before we get into our first news story. Sneaky is playing Tilu 2 and Fortnite, reading Wax and Wayne series by Sanderson. Very nice. Mayfly is playing Banishers, Ghost of New Eden, and BG3. Some Signalis, but need brain power for that one. Yes, I know you talked about Banishers, so I'm excited that you are getting into that one. I hope that it's fun, Mayfly. And Perry is reading Blue Period, so not watching it. I've heard good things about the anime for that one, so you may want to check that out as well, Perry. And then watching the Freeman dub. I love Freeman so much. And Hijack, I haven't heard of that one, and playing absolutely nothing. Yeah, total crickets there. Sunny Sierra Summer says watching Love is Blind season 6. I've heard good things. I did love the first 2 seasons, and the newest Freeman episode, playing Roblox. And Mayfly affirms Banishers is so good. Any of those shows or games stand out to you there, Steve?
No, actually, a lot of these aren't ones that I've played. Although Baldur's Gate 3, I'm still playing. I like, I don't know, 40, 50 hours into it, and it feels like I'm just scratching the surface still. They have done something with this game that is so innovative in narrative. Like, games have innovated mechanics a million times before, but the way that this game has innovated narrative in the way that I can talk to my friends about it and we have had entirely different experiences is wild. It's so good. Yeah.
Yes. There's a lot to that one. I enjoyed my single playthrough. Mayfly will talk to you as much as you want to hear about her many playthroughs at this point. And I love it. I love to see it. I love the passion that the game has evoked, and just the people that are so excited to have a game that they can really, dig their teeth into. And that makes me super happy. Anytime somebody's able to do that with a game, that's a big thumbs up.
480 hours in, Mayfly. Impressive.
Yeah. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Is it okay? You better believe it. At 480 hours, it better be the best game ever. And I think that Mayfly would affirm that it indeed is. Yes. And the last one, Little Miss Lizzie says, playing Tower Unite, reading nothing in particular, and watching all the Hank Green interviews. Love to hear it. Yeah, there's a new Hank Green one that I'm going to check out here before too long. I got it sent to me the other day. Very cool. All right, well, let's get into some news. We're going to talk about some of the trending news stories going around right now. The first is actually kind of a twofer. Nintendo is gearing up for its first Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase of 2024, scheduled for February 21st, 2024. That is tomorrow, if you're watching this as this airs live. The event promises around 25 minutes of updates focused on games coming to the Nintendo Switch in the first half of 2024, highlighting titles from Nintendo's publishing and development partners. While specifics on the showcase games remain under wraps, anticipation builds as Nintendo prepares to unveil the latest additions to its games lineup via an on-demand YouTube release. This announcement follows on the heels of recent showcases by Xbox and PlayStation, as well as amid speculation about the delayed launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, now expected in early 2025. And then another showcase that was announced just very recently, the Pokemon Company is gearing up to celebrate Pokemon Day 2024 with an exciting Pokemon Presents live stream scheduled for February 27th. This event, which will be broadcasted at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern on the official Pokemon YouTube channel, promises to deliver exciting news to fans worldwide. While the specifics of the announcements remain under wraps, speculation is rife among the Pokemon community. With both parts of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet expansion, the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, and its epilogue Mochi Mayhem already released, fans are eagerly anticipating news on potential new games. Speculations include possibilities of a remake of Pokemon Black and White, a sequel to Pokemon Legends Arceus, please be that one, or even an entirely new spinoff. Amidst recent criticism of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for technical issues, the Pokemon Company has been reflective on maintaining game quality. Despite these critiques, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet experienced strong sales, indicating the franchise's enduring popularity. As Pokemon Day approaches, fans are on the edge of their seats, waiting to see what new adventures await in the Pokemon universe. Whew. So that's a lot. We're definitely going to be watching both of those on our Discord server because I love Nintendo. I'm a big old Nintendo fanboy, and I'm an even bigger Pokemon fanboy. So I'm excited for both of those things. But we've been waiting. I didn't think one was going to happen. I really thought we were not going to get a February Direct this year.
Well, I think Nintendo's in a place right now where they are needing to heavily rely on first-party IP, which is okay because their first-party IP is spectacular, glowing, the greatest, in many ways. But especially when it's coming to the Switch 2, if they don't have some first-party IP to drop with it, like I would suspect the Switch 2 is ready to go. Like it's prepped, it's there. They could ship it if they wanted to, but they don't have anything to ship with it. And so I'm guessing they're waiting for a Metroid Prime 4 or the next Mario or another Pokemon to be able to ship with this thing because Pokemon would be great to go with it, but they need that first-party support for themselves.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think there will hopefully be some news of at least a confirmation of a date. I want to, like, even if we only see like a logo for the Switch 2, even if they don't show us any schematics or exciting things, I think they should. But even if they don't, like, give us something to work with instead of just hiding behind like the curtain. It'd be nice from Nintendo. I don't know if we're going to get that, but that would be what I would super appreciate from them. I think they've done a fantastic job of being the indie machine that they needed to be. They definitely had some pressure from the Steam Deck, but like, I keep up with all the upcoming games from week to week for our upcoming news, and like they have not had a shortage of new games. They're constantly working on things. They're constantly making new partnerships. Like they're not as big of ones as you hear about from the Activision Blizzard stuff, but like they've been making partnerships along the way and seriously building up their catalog without any kind of falter. So they're not hurting, but I do hope that they will tell us something a little bit more exciting with this next one than just Princess Peach, which I'm sure we'll probably hear more about it, but let's have some more than just that. As far as Pokemon goes, I am just crossing my fingers for more Arceus. I don't think we're going to get it. I really think they like probably are good and done with that one. Like I think they did it and now they're happy, but I would love more from that. I do think it's pretty likely the rumor mill is saying we're going to get a new Let's Go and it's going to be based off of Silver and Gold. And I think that's pretty likely. I didn't hate Let's Go. It had a really fun shiny hunting mechanic, and that was probably the best part of the game. And it also was a really good one to give to like younger kids. So maybe, especially since Sierra says, I wonder if anything's gonna be Pokemon Go related, like that might be a nice time to reinvigorate people into the Go mechanic of throwing Pokeballs and more hardware to sell, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one that isn't as involved and in depth as the other Pokemon games. And so it's an easy one to put like in the slower season if you need to be able to drop a game, not in like the Christmas time or whatever else. And so the Let's Go I think would be a great idea. But you're right, Nintendo's not hurting at all. I think they're happy to kind of sit on their laurels isn't the right phrase I want to use, but happy to coast for a little while, particularly because they have chiseled out their niche and they have no competition. They have no competition for what they are doing. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more with Xbox and what they're up to right now. But we'll get to that later. But as for what I'm seeing here is Nintendo has what they have. Their demographic. They control it completely. And they can coast for a while, no problem.
It definitely seems that way. Well, speaking of somewhere where Nintendo did not do super hot, but did have some representation, and especially Koji Kondo, for anybody that actually watched the DICE Awards. Let's go over the DICE Awards results. 27th annual just happened. Yeah.
The DICE Awards results are in. Let's go over these real quick here. Outstanding achievement in animation was Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Outstanding achievement in art direction, Alan Wake 2. Outstanding achievement in character, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales. Outstanding achievement in original music composition, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Outstanding achievement in audio design, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Outstanding achievement in story, Baldur's Gate 3, gasp. Outstanding technical achievement, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Action Game of the Year, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Adventure Game of the Year, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Family Game of the Year, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Fighting game of the year, Street Fighter 6. Racing game of the year, Forza Motorsport. Role-playing game of the year, Baldur's Gate 3. Sports game of the year is MLB The Show 23. Strategy or simulation game of the year is Dune Spice Wars. Immersive reality technical achievement is Horizon Call of the Mountain. Immersive reality game of the year is Asgard's Wrath 2. Outstanding achievement for an independent game is Cocoon. Mobile game of the year is What the Car. Online game of the year is Diablo 4. Outstanding achievement in game design, Baldur's Gate 3. Outstanding achievement in game direction, Baldur's Gate 3. And game of the year, Baldur's Gate 3. And I gotta say, before we get other people's thoughts on this, I am thrilled to see that Spider-Man 2 got so much recognition that it didn't get at the Game Awards. It was nominated for a lot of things. I don't think it won anything, but it is a spectacular game. Like, again, like I said, I don't get to play a lot of these games, but as I'm working, I put a lot of the playthroughs on YouTube off to the side. And just what they have done with these games are so impressive, so spectacular, and just fun. It brings just fun back to video games in a wonderful way. So it was great to see how much Spider-Man won here.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was surprising to see all the love it got for me. Like, I think that sure, it definitely deserves it. I'm glad that it finally got the inertia from this one. I think maybe people just had more time to play it than they did with the Game Awards. It had come out and it was still so fresh on people's minds. It does make me sad to see Alan Wake 2 kind of get snubbed at this one. It feels like those two games were like two sides of the same coin and you weren't allowed to choose one or the other. And that's a strange thing for me to see. Like, it feels like there were some that were shoe-ins, like Legend of Zelda was gonna get the adventure game, Mario was gonna get family. Like, there were some that were just like unquestionable, but then there was like Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man 2, you had to pick one or the other for everything that Baldur's Gate 3 didn't win.
Which is weird because they couldn't be more different, right? But at the same time, you're right that they seem to be the next choice for a lot of people. If you were going to give it to Tears of the Kingdom, if you were going to give it to Baldur's Gate 3, it was Spider-Man 2 or Alan Wake 2, even though the games are just so wildly different from one another.
Yeah. I was outraged to see that the indie game winner was Cocoon. I cannot help that I think that game was just so totally fine. Like, it's for some reason everybody loves it. And it was an impressive like thing that it did. Like, I liked the idea of the thing within the thing within the thing, but it was as okay of a game as I've ever played. And it had one thing that it did, and you had to do that for a long time. It wasn't that long, it was 5 hours, but it was the only thing you did. And so I'm still salty about that one, but what are you going to do?
Give it to?
I think as far as indie games go, they don't really have like the same thing as the Game Awards where it has like the emotional ones. And so like Space for the Unbound is going to be like my pick for a good, like strong narrative indie game. As much as I, to my chagrin of Dave the Diver being considered an indie game, like I think it was unarguably a better game than Cocoon. So I think it should have won over top. But I'm glad that the Cocoon team got some recognition, and I know they have some ties to Inside, and like Inside was undeniably a fantastic game. That was a game that did do more than just the one thing. So, yeah.
Venba was the one that I would have picked. I think Venba, it got a lot of people looking at it, but especially as a person of color from a different culture, the way that it highlighted a culture and just like shined a light on it and also immersed you in it in such a wonderful way, but also in such a calm and peaceful way of just cooking. Getting in there and making these meals but also the conversation of family and what it's like to be an immigrant and whatnot. And so Venba was just delightful to me and an incredible story. I wish that Venba would have gotten more love.
Yeah. Was it nominated? Do you remember? I don't know if I know the DICE nominees. I know that Space
Game
for the Unbound
Awards
wasn't.
At the Game Awards, yes. I don't know if it was at the DICE Awards.
Yeah, I would be curious because I know that it definitely got its fair share of nominations, and especially Unbound got one nom. But I do agree. I think that especially Venba, like this is a churchy conversation, but I think that Venba is like the perfect game to show to a lot of church people because I think they would totally get it. It's easy to play. Food is like the universal language that we all understand. Like, Lord knows the church can learn some things about racial equity, and that's a way to do it. And like, I love it for that reason alone. If it feels like a super approachable, accessible game that tells a really powerful story, and I'm always here for that.
Absolutely. I do also just want to toss in What the Car. As a big fan of What the Golf, I was really delighted to see that What the Car got some love there too. What the Golf was incredible.
Yes. Yeah, that was a random one. I like couldn't even believe I saw it. I was like, I just never think about
Yeah,
mobile games or what mobile games come out, and especially if they're not Hoyoverse, I never expect them to win. So I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, there's other
right.
games than just the gotcha games? I had no clue. Wonderful. So yeah, glad to see somebody getting some nominations there. With that, we're going to get into our next news story for today. Respawn Entertainment is reportedly diving into the Star Wars universe once more with a first-person Mandalorian video game in early development. The game promises to let players step into the shoes of a Mandalorian bounty hunter, navigating the galaxy during the Empire's reign, undertaking bounties for cash, and utilizing high mobility features like a jetpack with boost sliding, reminiscent of Respawn's Apex Legends. Described as fast-paced with health regeneration after successive kills and equipped with gadgets like wrist rockets and grapple hooks, the game is set across linear levels on various planets. While not open world or multiplayer, it's still a couple years from release. Respawn remains busy with multiple projects, including the ongoing Apex Legends, the next Star Wars Jedi installment, an untitled Star Wars FPS, and a Star Wars strategy game. Do you remember the PS2 Bounty Hunter title?
I
Because
do, except I played it on the GameCube, but yes,
gotcha.
I do. Yeah,
I
yeah.
desperately want that to be what this is. And
Yes, thank you.
I'm going
Yes.
to build it up in my head as that, and I'm going to be so disappointed if it's anything other than that. Like,
And to me, it's there, it's loved, it's good. Just do it again, and
yep.
everybody will be so happy with you. Like, come on, man. I will also say though, have you played or heard of Sanabi? It's a recent indie game.
Mm-mm.
Sanabi, you'd like it. Check out Sanabi. I will say that it's a 2D side scroller, but it sets this precedent of grapple mechanics that looks
Mm.
so fun and fluid. And that's sort of set that precedent for me now. And so anytime a game these days says that it has grapple mechanics, I'm like, yeah, but does it have Sanabi level grapple mechanics? That's what I want right there. So
Yeah. Well, I
chat,
love
let
it.
me know if you know Sanabi.
I'll have to check that one out for sure. I'm excited for this. I see that Sneaky is also excited in the chat. I mean, the Star Wars universe is always going to be fun and fun to see new games and new realizations of that world. I'm glad to say that they didn't say like follow Mando and Grogu across the universe. They're like, you are a Mandalorian, like
Right.
good. Let's not try and tell a story that's already been told. Let's not try and dive into something that's already being done. Like, good. I'm glad that we're exploring the universe, and all the more reason to let me make my own character, let me make my own bounty hunter, let me buy my
Yeah.
parts and pieces and equip the perfect, merc that I want to make. I'm super excited.
Give me a character creator, man. Give me a Mandalorian character creator. I want
Absolutely.
that so bad.
100%. I'm very hopeful that there is somebody at Respawn that like knows that game, knows that vision. Anybody that loves video games that is like around, anywhere really. I can't even like say an age because it feels like that was such a like ubiquitous game of an entire generation of consoles.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for that to be a realized reality. Some things that are a little bit of a mixed bag of hope might be our next news story. Tell us more.
That's right. And news for the Xbox. In a recent business update, Xbox outlined its vision for the future, including significant announcements made by executive Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty. Notably, Xbox confirmed that 4 of its exclusive titles will be going multi-platform, although specific games weren't named during the announcement. The Verge reports these titles include Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded, aiming to expand their communities by introducing these games to a wider audience. Additionally, Xbox revealed that Diablo 4 will be coming to Game Pass on March 28th, marking the beginning of Activision Blizzard Games' integration into the service, despite previous delays attributed to regulatory challenges. Xbox also teased the next-gen console, promising the, quote, largest technical leap in a hardware generation, unquote, and hinted at a robust hardware roadmap, including new console and controller options for the upcoming holiday season. This update reflects Xbox's strategic pivot towards broader accessibility, emphasizing the expansion of Game Pass and maintaining a commitment to hardware development amid discussions about the value of exclusives and the company's position in the console market. I'm not going to lie here, Nate. I am shocked that Xbox is making another console.
Yeah.
Especially Phil Spencer has already come out and said verbatim, we lost the console war.
Mm.
They have never won a console war before. Look, I love the Xbox. I use Game Pass. I love Game Pass, but this has never been a great money-making place for them. I'm shocked they didn't focus everything in on Game Pass, perfecting that, solidifying that. The fact that they're going in on another console and that they are again making the decade-old mistake of saying how powerful it's going to be. Guys, gamers these days, very few of us care about how powerful your console is going to be. Tell us about your software.
Mm.
What's your software? What's the story? What are we going to be playing? That's what we care about.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what Xbox does so well is cloud technology. Like the
Mm,
fact
mm.
that I can go from my phone to my computer to, wherever I am on Game Pass and it maintains that save and does it well, like
Yeah.
that is huge. And if they would lean into that of like, we've got the computer tech down and like, we're going to save your game. And like, this is just an incredible thing that they've been able to maneuver through. They really do have the corner of the market in like some of the aspects of gaming, and they just
Yeah.
keep trying to compete with a non-existent race instead of highlighting the actual things that are exciting about their product. So it is weird. It feels like they don't know who to compete with because they're just on their in another league in a lot of ways. And so whenever it comes to being a member of the big three, they almost have their like hands in too many other cookie pots to pay attention to the actual discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. If they announced the strongest console ever made that does a billion different amazing things, but then Nintendo leans in and announces the next Zelda game, and Sony leans in and announces God of Mischief that is spin-off of the God of War series, nobody cares about your system. Nobody cares about your console anymore, right?
Yep.
And it's just these stories are what people care about, and that
Mhm.
is where Xbox is lacking. But they don't have to be. They could focus. They have like Ninja Theory. They have Double Fine. They have these dev companies that make great games. Focus your efforts there, guys. That's where you should be focusing your efforts.
100%. We'll see if they do. We'll see what the future holds. I will say this was kind of a non-story as far as like the big tease that we got last week of like, there's a podcast coming out and Phil Spencer's going to reveal it all and everything's changing and all the things are, we're going to pivot into a new generation of gaming. It was kind of a like, no, we're only going to tell you about the 4 games we are doing. You need to calm down. Like they clearly nerfed this pretty seriously and didn't want to overhype anything too much, but still maintain their sense of control of the situation, which is something I think Phil Spencer's pretty doggone good at. So
Yeah,
he
that's
continues
absolutely
to be
true.
him and do his job. And there's only so much we can be excited for, and we just got to keep looking for that day one on Game
Mhm.
Pass sign at the end of trailers, and that's going to be what Xbox is going to offer us for a while longer yet. Cool. All right, into our next news story about the Fantastic Four. Marvel Studios has announced a new release date for the Fantastic Four set for July 25th, 2025. Don't hold on too tight to that date. And has unveiled its star-studded cast, including Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Eben Moss Bachrach as Ben Grimm / The Thing, and Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. Accompanying this announcement was a Valentine's Day themed poster, picture below, featuring the cast, the lovable robot Herbie, and a nod to the character's background as a NASA astronaut. This casting decision confirms that John Krasinski, who portrayed Reed Richards in Mom, will not return in the same capacity for this film. Directed by Matt Shackman and with a script rewrite by Josh Friedman, following an initial draft by Jeff Kaplan and Ian Springer, the Fantastic Four is positioned within the MCU's Phase 5. Are we still in Phase? I didn't even. Okay, that interesting. The film promises to diverge from the traditional origin stories and draw inspiration in part from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, reflecting Shackman's versatile directing portfolio, which includes work on Succession, Game of Thrones, Mad Men, and more. Yeah, this was an interesting little announcement this week. I'm surprised that they announced all 4 of the members in one big fell swoop. And I'm kind of like, on one hand, surprised they did that. On the other hand, relieved because I don't really feel like talking about it for like 4 months. So I think this is probably a fine way to do it, but it does seem like an interesting move and just further twists the knife for me of like Marvel is spiraling and has no idea what to do and what to get you
And
excited about.
this felt like the safest thing for them to do in a time where you're right, where they are kind of spiraling, where things are a little uncertain for them. And so they're coming out with one movie in 2024, and it's Deadpool 3 again, a really safe bet for them, one that should be really popular. They are still kind of limping from phase 4, where it was all experimental and mostly, like, as far as opinion, not successful. So to be able to say, here is a fan classic, Fantastic Four. here are some actors that you love, Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, like here's things that you know. Everything's gonna be fine, guys. Like it just felt really safe, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with safe. I would love a return to form for Marvel. I love Marvel, but I also am suffering from, like so many people, Marvel fatigue, and so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting time for them. I really like the aesthetic they're going for. I like that they went with some much beloved characters as well as a new actor in the form of Joseph Quinn. I really think that I did not know of him before Eddie, so I don't know if he had a role
Yeah,
before that, but I knew him from Stranger Things, and like he popped off, and that's an interesting risk that they're taking on somebody new to the scene, and I think that's great. I would love to see Marvel take more risks with new actors and upcoming actors, and typically they do a really
absolutely,
good
yes.
job of casting. So they must have a cool vision for Johnny, and that should be a fun future. I
I'm
enjoy
excited
the
for it.
Fantastic Four. Even the worst Fantastic Four movies I've super enjoyed. So I'm along for the ride, and I think it's going to be a good time. I'm curious to see how they're actually going to lean into allowing them to be in the MCU. The one experience they've had of allowing them to be in the MCU, I hated more than anything, and I will go on record if you want to talk. There was the other day I was listening to the Movigites, and Brian from Movigo was talking about how he's like lessened now on Multiverse of Madness, and he's like, it was a fine movie. No, it's a terrible movie. It's a bad movie. I will continue saying it is such a bad movie, and I will hold my ground of hatred for that film forever. And so the one time we have had the Fantastic Four in the MCU with John Krasinski, I'm glad to have forgotten. And I think that if we had seen him as the lead, I would have never been able to forget that stinking movie. And I want it to be in the past. So
I will say that the movie to me was really dumb in a delightful way. You were sitting here saying how much you disliked it, and I'm like, no, yeah, I get it, man. They fought with musical notes, and that was the stupidest thing, and it was ridiculous in so many ways. But it was classic Sam Raimi, and it
yeah.
was Marvel trying to dip its toe into horror in a weird Marvel way, and some of it really worked. I had some legit jump scares in that movie,
Mm.
like when Scarlet Witch looked into the camera. I got a
Hmm.
chill through my entire body. But hey, you love it or hate it, can we all agree it was dumb, guys? It was real dumb, and I'm okay with that. It's
Yeah.
fine. I wholeheartedly get it. But I will agree that John Krasinski was not the most convincing Mr. Fantastic,
Yeah.
and so I'm not, as much as I love John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, and as much as I would love to see them as Reed Richards and Sue Richards, uh, I'm not disappointed
Yeah.
that it's not happening. So
Yeah. It's gonna be all right. And I'm glad to see
yeah,
other characters and trust the process. I'm glad to hear that it's not coming out for a little while, and hopefully we'll hear more of that from Marvel. That more things are not coming out for a while because it shows they're putting more and more effort into them, and I'm here for that. All right, into our next story from our other of the big three.
yeah, and in the same vein of things not coming up for a while, Sony has officially announced that it will not launch any new major titles from its existing PlayStation franchises, such as God of War Ragnarok and Marvel Spider-Man 2, before April 2025. This statement came from Sony Interactive Entertainment's boss, Hiroki Totoki, during a financial call, highlighting a strategic shift toward focusing on high-quality productions and the development of live service games. While major projects are in the works, fans of Sony's flagship series will have to wait beyond next fiscal year for any new releases. Despite this, Sony plans to introduce games from new franchises and continue with remakes of popular titles from the PS4 era. To bolster its lineup, Sony's also emphasizing, quote, second party games, securing exclusive like Square Enix's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and other notable titles to set release in 2024. This update follows news of the PS5 sales not meeting with the company's ambitious targets, with the revised forecast now aiming for 21 million units sold by the end of the current financial year. What do you think, Nate? No,
Yeah,
no
I kind of
new
agree with
stuff
Sneaky
for a
right
while.
there. I'm okay with this for two reasons. Gives me a chance to play games I've missed, gives my wallet a break after Broketober. Like, totally agree. I think that last year was an insane year for video games. Like, even if you count PS5 still being pretty slow on those first party, like major titles. I mean, it did release plenty, but it didn't release as many as the competitors necessarily, but it was still enough. And so I'm just fine with a breath of fresh air. I'm just fine with some patience in the process. I'm honestly hopeful, and he didn't really say this, but I would have appreciated like leaning into new IP. And I know that as a diehard Nintendo fan, that is me like absolutely calling the kettle black. But I think Sony has such cool ideas, cool concepts, cool studios that they're working with. And like, I think about, yeah, whether you love or are not super crazy about like Horizon Zero Dawn, like that was something so new and it was something so different, and it created a whole new IP of excitement. They revisioned God of War that it might as well be a totally new IP. And so like I love that from Sony, and I want more of that in this console's life cycle. And I'm worried it's just going to be kind of more incredible games they've made, but just kind of a like, now look at this on the next level up software. And that's all well and good, but I want to see some new ventures and some new exciting things from them. And that's kind of where I land. Like my PS5 is kind of my like, oh yeah, that game came out, I guess I better dust it off and play that one on it, because most of my games are Steam Deck or PC based anyway. So yeah.
I'm similar with my PS5, actually. It's one that will sit there for like 3 months, and then over the course of the next 2 months, I'll dump 60, 100 hours into a game that's just spectacular, and I love every second of it. And then it sits there for another few months. And the reality is I'm kind of okay with that, because the games that it does produce are of such high quality that I love them so much, and they stick with me for so long. I still am like riding this dad high on God of War Ragnarok and how good that game was and how much it spoke to me as a father. And how much like religious connotation you get from that as well. Like how like so many good things in that game. But anyway, all this to say that if they could take the knowledge that they have in that space and hand it to somebody else and say, we want to empower you, we want to build you up, we want to give you, kind of like Microsoft is trying to do with some of their indie studios that they have picked up. Do that. Highlight some of your other like indie games, like Goodbye Volcano High dropped, like they were advertising so much, and then it dropped and came and went, and I never heard anything about it again. And I still haven't played it. It's a game that I've been wanting to play so much, but just highlight some of those indie games, highlight some new IP, take this time to do some fun, unique stuff. Oh, and finally just buy Square Enix. Everybody knows you're going to do it, guys. Just buy Square Enix now. Come on.
Yeah. I love they call that a second party game. That's so funny. Like
Yeah.
the insult of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth being called a second party it's just degrading. Like it's a pivotal game of the year. It's one of the most famous games of all time being revisioned instead of remade. Like it's a pretty big deal. Let's not put it down at too low. So yeah, I agree. I think that there's a level of let's step it up, Sony. Let's do something and see something exciting. They're just kind of the safe bet of everybody, and I think that's where they firmly settled themselves. Whereas I think Nintendo is also similarly slow. They at least are like consistently churning out indies, and then you have Xbox that's just keeping on plugging Game Pass, and they have their kind of like strongholds. And I just want to see each of them try something a little more experimental. And I will say, Goodbye Volcano High, we do have a full playthrough of it available on Checkpoint Church on our YouTube channel. We did play through it. I loved it. It was great. Very fun stuff. Yeah, so you'll have to check that one out. It was a good story and a super fun game. I really enjoyed the jokes and the characters, and the voice acting was top tier. Yeah, good stuff.
Nice.
All right, folks, we're going to get into our next segment of the show, which is, of course,
Cryptic Critiques.
That's right. It is Cryptic Critiques. There was a stinger there that you didn't see. That was magic.
Oh,
that
I
was
was
the Hollywood
so
magic
confused.
of OBS. I should have warned you that, we'll pause.
You just went quiet. I got to say, I've been really curious about this because on the show notes for me, chat, it's like literally a redacted set of text here. And so it looks like the government came in and was like, Nerd Pastor Nate cannot say that. I don't know. I'm excited.
Yes, so this is Cryptic Critiques. This is where I will read off 1-star reviews that I found on the internet of much beloved games. So based off of those reviews, we'll see if you can guess what the game is and when you can guess it. So that is the game. That's how it works. And I will encourage folks in the chat to play along as well. Do not type your guesses in the chat because we do have a special guest. I want to make sure that Steve gets a guess in before we get there. So we're going to go in. Again, these are 1-star reviews of a beloved game. I used to say of a 5-star game, and now I don't say that because I got in trouble whenever I called Danganronpa a 5-star game, and people said, Nate, calm down. And it may be a 5-star game to me, but apparently it's not everybody's, and it hurt my feelings, so now I'll never do it again. All right. So our first prompt, our first 1-star review is, the best part of this game is that Reddit will stop talking about it all the time now. The best part of this game is that Reddit will stop talking about it all the time now.
So off the bat, that makes me think something like Baldur's Gate 3, where it was an early access for a super duper long time.
Mm,
But now that it's officially launched, maybe Reddit will finally shut up about it. That's my
solid. That's a
my
solid
first
start.
thought there. All right. All
Solid
right.
guess. We'll pencil that one in. Perry's also penciling in a guess. I love to hear it. All right, let's go into our next one, see if that changes your answer at all. Our second prompt. This game is so slow, the combat feels weird, and its follow-ups refine this type of game so much that it isn't even worth going back to. This game is so slow, the combat feels weird, and its follow-ups refine this type of game so much that it isn't even worth going back to.
Its follow-ups refine this type of game so much that isn't worth going back to. So, okay, let me to clarify, is it saying that this is a game that has sequels? This is a former game that has sequels?
Yes, it
And
has
those
follow-up games.
Okay. I want to be clear with that. See, now I'm going back and saying maybe Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Hmm.
So a lot of people who never played the original really struggled with things like Wall Market and going through the sewers, and they're like, this is all dumb. Why are we doing any of this? It feels so pointless. I have a friend, my co-host on my podcast, Kyle Fox. He hates it. He did not like the game at all. And it was just so, okay. All right.
All right, so we got another penciled in answer, maybe changed from
Yeah,
Baldur's Gate to
yeah.
Final Fantasy VII. I like it. I like where we're going. All right, our final
What do we
one.
got?
Let's see if this one gives it away. If you finally lock in a different answer.
Yeah.
There's no way this is what those Smash Bros. People were hyping up for decades. There is no way this is what those Smash Bros. People were hyping up for decades. All right, we have all three here. The best part of this game is that
Okay,
Reddit will
yeah.
stop talking about it all the time now. The game is so slow, the combat feels weird, and its follow-ups refine this type of game so much that it isn't even worth going back to. And then the final one-star review is, there is no way this is what those Smash Bros. People were hyping up for decades. What do we think?
Is this Smash 64? Is that what they're talking about? The original Smash Brothers? And if it is, I'm gonna throw hands because it's the best Smash Brothers. I love it so much.
I like where your head is at, but that is not the answer, I'm afraid.
Oh, all right, chat. What are they allowed to guess now?
Yeah, Perry, have you got your guess? I know Perry had one. If anybody else is out in chat land and you think you know what it is based off of these three, see if you got it. I'll give you a couple seconds to respond. We can do the do 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 do.
Yeah.
Well, Perry says I'm wrong. You're well
I'm wrong.
tried.
It's not this. I'm trying to think what would Smash Bros. People hyped up? It can't be like a PlayStation All Stars because that wasn't a 5-star game. Yeah, I'm not sure, man. What do we got?
I can give you one final clue, and that is that this
Sure.
game has already been talked about during this podcast.
Really?
Mhm.
Man, that doesn't narrow it down with me and you, though. We'll talk about a billion different types of games.
That's very true. That's very true.
I'm scrolling back here.
I also picked a game that was near and dear to your heart. I typically try to do that with our guests.
To my heart, okay, then is it Final Fantasy VII?
It is not. Is it the Hyrule fighting game? It is not that one, Mayfly. Not BG3, not Disco, not Earthbound. Y'all are dancing around it. The game is, drumroll please, Super Mario RPG. There are 1-star reviews of it. So the Super Smash reference was Gino 100%. Everybody was talking about him as a character for Smash forever. And apparently somebody was not impressed when they finally got into it.
Oh, man. This is another one that, like Final Fantasy VII, is if you're not 40 years old like me, I could see you just despising this game. It would feel super duper slow, and the story would feel like it's not that engaging. You gotta have to, like, there's got to be a part of you that's used to turn-based combat. If you're not used to turn-based combat, it's gonna be weird. Yeah, Perry, I'm with you. Slow, excuse me? The combat is engaging the entire time. You're doing something the whole time.
Yep.
Table flip. But no, I get it.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's a fun one, but I thought that I always enjoy a good time of giving the Redditors a hard time, so that's always nice. And then Smash Bros. Peeps as well. There was a lot to throw people off in this one, so I thought it was good.
Oh, for sure. That's good. No, that was real good. And I'm long since somebody who, if somebody says that they hate the game that I love, or vice versa, they love the game that I hate, I'm more than like that. Okay, cool.
Yep. Oh, believe
So
me, any like hackles that I ever had, I have to look through hundreds of 1-star reviews of video games for this game, and so I no longer have any feelings. It just it's like I'm numb inside from looking at these stinking 1-star reviews and just
oh,
constantly
Nathan.
looking at my favorite games and seeing all the mean things
Ay,
that people say.
pobrecito, sana colita de rana, mijo. You're gonna be okay. I can't imagine
Yep.
having to dig through 1-star reviews that much, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, but it is definitely like, man, some people are just mean about games, so I got to find the funny ones, and
Yeah, that's
it's a good
good.
time. It's a good time.
That
All
was
right, well,
fun.
that has been Cryptic Critiques. We're now going to get into another stinger, so we'll pause for a second as we go to the Discord.
Thank you for the warning.
All right, it is time for To the Discord. This is news that was submitted by you via our Discord server. So if you would like to submit news for us to respond to and read out in next week's Twig, be sure to go to our Ask Questions, Get Answers section of our Discord every Monday. Anything that is posted in there, the articles that are posted in there, I'll look at and try and pick out 3 that I think are good to talk about during this time. So we're going to start out. All 3 of our news pieces this week were submitted by Twyla. The first one, Nintendo's stock took a nearly 6% hit following reports of a delay in the launch of its next gaming console, pushing the release to early 2025. The news, initially reported by a Brazilian journalist and later corroborated by Eurogamer and Bloomberg, suggests that the delay is intended to ensure a robust lineup of games for the system's debut, with the stock price falling to $55.72, down 5.86% from the previous Friday. The delay marks a significant setback for Nintendo, especially as it misses the crucial holiday sales window. This new console, which remains unnamed, is anticipated to succeed the Nintendo Switch and maintain its unique hybrid design featuring technology from NVIDIA. The Switch, known for its versatility as both a handheld and a TV-connected device, has seen a slowdown in sales despite its historical success, selling 122.5 million units and ranking as the 3rd highest-selling console behind the PS2 and the Nintendo DS. The upcoming system's delay into the next fiscal year, missing the 2024 holiday season, could pose a major financial challenge for Nintendo. Yeah, so this is not surprising. I think that it is, again, like we said at the beginning, Nintendo's doing just fine. They're going to be okay. You read that 122.55 million unit number and you're like,
Yeah.
they're doing all right. Like, they're
me,
going to manage.
This is like all the articles you see these days about Disney failing and Disney like really struggling because they only made $3 billion last year. And it's one of those things like, look, I get it when you look at it in the big picture. They're not making near as much money as you thought, but they're gonna be just fine. It's gonna be okay. Nintendo, they're gonna walk up one day and they're gonna say Super Mario next, and everybody, and they're gonna be just fine after that. So yeah, it's exciting to get any news about the Switch 2. Still sad we haven't gotten any of it, but they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I'm not sweating it, not sweating the heat. I think they're going to do all right. And it is always, of course, devastating to read about stock plummets, but we'll see what the future holds for Nintendo. And again, they're gonna float along okay. Next up, Sony's market value also plummeted by about $10 billion due to disappointing PlayStation financial results, with the company's stock taking a hit after revising its PS5 sales forecast downwards by 4 million units. The significant financial downturn was further exacerbated by a stark decline in the operating margin of Sony's gaming division, dropping to 6% from the previous year's 12 to 13%, marking a near-decade low. Analysts have highlighted the contrast between the high revenues from digital sales and the low profit margins as particularly concerning. In response, Sony aims to boost profitability by focusing more on PC releases of its PS5 games, amidst expectations of declining hardware sales and no major franchise releases planned for the next fiscal year.
This is what I'm talking about, man. People don't buy consoles that much anymore. I mean, it didn't help that Sony didn't provide enough consoles when people wanted them.
Right.
But it's just, why does Microsoft want to make another console when Sony's here and they're the ones who have usually win the console wars, and they're not selling as many consoles as they thought? Like, consoles in themselves are slowly becoming less and less popular. I think that there'll always be room for consoles, but it's weird to me that people are so focused on it. All this to say that I don't see this changing for Sony. I don't see their consoles suddenly taking a huge jump anytime soon. So it'll be interesting to see what they do about this.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. I know that we didn't include this in the news for tonight, but they also recently remarked that the PS5 Pro is still on trajectory. Like they're looking good. It's still going to come out this year. Like everything's looking good there. So they're not delaying, they're not moving
Mhm.
up, they're not changing anything about it. They're still confident in releasing that console. So I think that it's intriguing. I think that in this situation in particular, like everybody wins because it's good to hear that they're going to start focusing more on PC releases. So the
Yeah.
people that want PS5 exclusives are going to be able to access them sooner. That's fantastic news. And hopefully we'll be able to play them at a higher quality without having to buy our own specific thing, especially for those of us that have already spent the money on a computer. And so all around, I think this is a big win for the gamer, even if
Yeah.
it's not a huge win for Sony's, shareholders. But they'll probably, again, they'll do just fine as well. And
hmm
they're continuing to do just fine as a company outside of even their gaming division. So
Well,
we'll
and I
see a
think
turnaround, I'm sure, and we'll see a PS6. They're not going to go anywhere with
yeah.
their console
Oh yeah.
creation either.
Yeah.
Especially if Xbox says they're not going to back down. They'll keep on egging one another on forever.
Oh
But
yeah.
yes. All right. Into the last of the big three. Twyla submitted all of the big three today. A reader critique highlights skepticism around Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, questioning the strategic value and integration plan for the gaming giant within the Xbox ecosystem. The acquisition, initially perceived as a potential boon for Xbox's Game Pass, now raises concerns over its effectiveness in enhancing revenue or innovating the gaming landscape. Despite owning a profitable entity and a pool of talented developers, Microsoft's apparent lack of a clear transformative vision for Activision Blizzard's future role has led to doubts about the acquisition's rationale. This situation reflects broader criticisms of corporate acquisitions, where strategic goals can become overshadowed by the pursuit of market dominance, leaving the gaming community uncertain about the potential for real innovation or change in the Xbox strategy. Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
Yeah. This one is really tough because I also just read an article saying that Microsoft had announced that they were going to decide that some of their games were going to be exclusive, that they were not going to release Activision Blizzard stuff to, other platforms, but that was part of their deal with the FTC to allow this purchase to go through at all, that it
Mhm.
wouldn't be a monopoly, that they wouldn't hang on to these games, they would allow it to go to other consoles and whatnot. And so with them trying to say, "Oh wait, hold on a second, maybe we need to change our strategies," but then the FTC saying like, "Oh, maybe you can't change your strategies," and now here they're saying like, "Oh, is any of those stuff working at all anyway?" This whole thing is a really weird thing. As much as we say that Disney, Nintendo, Disney, Nintendo, Sony are going to be okay, Xbox is the one that I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like,
Mm.
are they going to be okay? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird situation. It's like on one hand, Microsoft's not going anywhere, so
Right.
they're gonna be able to float along just fine. But it's kind of this. This is a totally unfair comparison. I was gonna say it's a similar sense of tension between like Amazon and Twitch. Totally not fair. But there's a level of weirdness between these two companies and their relationship that they have, and the tension between them of like the money's just not adding up and the relationship
hmm
within the money is not adding up. So I think there's a
hmm
part of it, especially with the major layoff of Activision Blizzard a couple weeks ago. Like
Yeah.
that's concerning. There's a lot of weird red flags coming down the pike of this one. And so I'm curious to see what actually does come of it. I will say of this article, the reason that it might sound a little bit weird in the summary is that this was kind of an op-ed. And so it's a little bit different for us to normally present this. I do think that this particular op-ed is a bit presumptuous as far as like the acquisition just went through. Like I'm not
Mhm.
too surprised that they haven't done anything dramatic yet. Like the fact that they managed to finally get Starfield out there was enough for me to say like, okay, good, they're actually still doing things. But
Right,
I'm
right.
not, I think it's going to be just fine. I am curious to see what they do with the backlog of games. I think that's interesting that they haven't done much there. But as far as the future of the gaming acquisition, I think that we haven't seen any of that because we haven't seen any of that because it's too soon. And hopefully they'll take
Right.
their time with that rather than rush anything. But again, the backlog is where I think this article does hold some merit
Well,
of criticism.
and on top of this, you got to realize it's Activision Blizzard Tencent, sorry, King, Activision Blizzard King, and King is a huge mobile
Hmm.
gaming thing, especially in China. And China just released a law that disallowed loot boxes and got some of the gotcha mechanics and things like that too. And that's just really going to hurt that bottom line. So like, I genuinely feel like Xbox is looking at this acquisition right now and questioning, was this worth it? And we won't know. Only time will tell for that. So.
Yep, very true. All right, folks. Well, with that, we're going to get into our next segment of the show, my personal favorite, and there will be a stinger for this one as well.
At this point in nerd history.
That's right. It's time for At This Point in Nerd History, everything that came out on exactly this day, February 20th, throughout time and space in nerddom. We've actually gotten into an interesting place where now we're overlapping with some of our stuff from our first season of Twig because we changed days of the week that we do this on. So I was able to just copy and paste this one. So if this sounds familiar for any of you that have been listening since season 1, that is the reason why. But some of the things that have come out throughout time and space on February 20th, some games. Metal Gear Survive came out in 2019. Sonic and the Secret Rings came out in 2007. This one is a bit of a deep cut, but for those internet meme lords among us, the Impossible Quiz was released, I think, on Newgrounds originally in 2007. And then Contra was released in Japan, 1987 today. And then a fun fact, not really one that has to do with video games, but Batman and Robin officially hit newspapers in 1944. So the OG comics of Batman and Robin were out there. Any of those games stand out for you, or just a big Batman and Robin fun fact fan?
Contra for sure is a big one for me. It didn't come to the States for a few years, but for me, that was one of my very first formative games ever playing. It's where I was introduced to the Konami code, and it's the game that I played probably the most often with friends until like the Super Nintendo came out.
Yeah, and I will say, as an indie game lover, this is a model that doesn't get copied near often enough. Like, I feel like we don't see the Contra model. Like, we do, I see one every now and again, but like compared to like to any other gaming model out there, this is one that is like the least appreciated. And I would be glad to see a fresh take on this one. And
Agreed.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. The Impossible Quiz is important for me in particular, just because I can remember like growing up and going to church, and we had like a computer room at the church. And so I'd have to stay at the church after hours when my dad was having like Bible study or whatever. And I would play the Impossible Quiz just for hours on end. And I really want to remember, I feel like it was on Newgrounds, but now I'm like scratching my brain and wondering if it was somewhere else originally. Like, I doubt it was on Funny Junk, but it could have been.
Refresh my memory here. Is this the one that it was basically like you had to guess that some of the answers were total non sequiturs, and you had to kind of guess your way through and then memorize it?
They all would make sense, but they were all tricks. And so all of them were puzzles. And so it would be, you know, ridiculous answers to every single question. And so it would be like, click the largest, and it would show you 3 objects, and one would be small, one would be medium, one would be huge, and you would have to click the words the largest.
Largest. Yeah.
So it would be things like that where
now.
it's like, they're not wrong, but they're being a little bit smart about it. And yeah.
I remember that now.
It was a classic. It was a real classic.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Well, let us know in the chat if you were particularly struck by any of those as well. And we are going to move into our penultimate segment of the show here. Again, another stinger. All right, this is upcoming releases. We're going to talk about 3 things that we're excited for coming up in the next week. Now, I see that we have one overlap. So I'm going to skip my first one and let you talk about it instead. Tell us a little bit about Avatar.
The Avatar The Last Airbender live action remake, I guess we can call it, is coming out to Netflix here soon. I always knew that it existed in just kind of the cultural zeitgeist. I did not actually experience it until it came out on Netflix and I had kids. And I was like, oh, we might as well watch this together. This is something that we could watch together. And not only did it hook our entire family, but it's one that we've actually watched the entire series of a couple of times now. My youngest has probably watched it a dozen times through. It is such joyful storytelling, so much fun. The characters are great. All of them are lovable. I am really excited, but also cautious about the remake because we all also saw the movie and that was what it was. And so we'll see. I'm really eager, but also a little worried. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm most anxious. I wish that the show writers would hush. I wish they'd stop talking about it because everything that they say like it turns me off from it just a little bit more. Like everything that they've said about like, yeah, we didn't make like Aang quite as joyful. Like he's a little less kiddish, and I'm like, he's a kid. He's supposed to be
Yeah,
kiddish.
he's like
And
10
then they're
years
like,
old or whatever.
and
Oh,
like Sokka is not a misogynist, and I'm like, he's supposed to be a misogynist, and then he gets better. Like
it's a big lesson that he learns. It's a
he
huge
has
lesson
to
he
be
learns.
bad to get good, and like
Yes.
for some reason they're refusing to like allow character growth, and I'm like, please like we already know Netflix doesn't give us enough seasons of TV shows, so please at least give us some character growth to hold on to in the one season that you're gonna give us. I'm anxious as all get out, but I do think it looks really pretty, and I always think that Netflix does a good job of making something that looks gorgeous, and it has that like almost like Netflix polish to it at this point. But I am nervous. I'm nervous. Yeah, I
was like
will
cautiously
watch every minute,
optimistic.
but I'm nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna
Yeah,
swap back and forth.
I agree with Perry that that does sound like a wonderful way to have experienced it for the first time with family. I am anxious.
It
Yes,
was.
very good, Wizen. I like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I
Well
like I
played.
said, I will definitely still check it out, but I can respect that choice for sure, Mayfly. You know, it's had some bumps along the road, and I can see it going either way. All right, we'll get into my second one, Geometry Survivor. I am a diehard fan of the Vampire Survivors genre. I am obsessed with it for some reason. I just love it so much. And Geometry Survivor is a new Survivor entry that is going to be kind of like a mixture of the shmup universe. So it's going to feel a little bit like a bullet hell, but it's also shmuppy, and it's going to have that Survivor element, and also neon shapes. So
So is it like Geometry Wars?
I think so. I think it's kind of like
Oh, nice. That's brilliant. That's
but
great.
it's a Survivor element. Everybody's doing it. Like I
Yeah.
think I mentioned to you the other day during your stream, like Deep Rock Galactic is doing their Survivors. Like everybody's doing their own Survivor thing. And okay, sure. Like I'm gonna play them because I think they sound like an absolute blast, and I just enjoy the way the games play in general. So this one looks really cool, nice and neon, fun shapes, and should be a good time.
Nate, you play Hollow Cure at all, or know of Hollow Cure?
Mm-mm.
It's, you know what VTubers are? They're like live streaming anime type characters. You ever seen that before?
I definitely recognize it Googling it.
There you go. It's free, and it's a Survivors game, and it is spectacular. I don't know any of these characters. All of it is super niche and inside baseball of like for VTubers. I know nothing about it. The game is spectacular. It's so much fun. It's an absolutely free Survivors type game. I highly recommend it. Super duper
What
fun.
have you done? Why have you done this? Why would you do this to me? I have things to do. I have a job.
Not anymore, you don't. Now your job is Hollow Cure.
Oh man, yeah, I bookmarked it. We're gonna be going to Itch.io and downloading that real quick.
My next one here is Lost Legends of Redwall. I have some friends here in Oregon that own a game studio called Soma Games, and they have the honor of making the video games for the book series Redwall, the like adolescent, early kids, late childhood book series Redwall. But they just released a sort of like a compilation of their games, and they brought it all out together, and it literally just dropped today. And they were kind enough to give me, it's Redwall. It's Redwall, and it's so good. And they were kind enough to give me a code. And so I'm going to be playing it on stream. Like I said, we just finished Mario RPG. So we're going to be going into Lost Legends of Redwall. You have the option of playing of one of the two main characters and kind of going through the game as the scouts. It is like anthropomorphic mice and weasels and things like that. And you are going in and trying to like scout your way through, making your way to Redwall. You want to get to Redwall. And it all together just seems like a super fun sort of puzzle adventure stealth game. I'm really excited to play this game. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely one to make sure that we tune into. I loved the Redwall books. I feel like this would inspire me to maybe go back. I wonder how. I feel like I remember them being a little tense. And not like not the most tense thing I would have read, but like definitely going to take a little while before introducing it to my kiddos. But it's one that I'm excited to introduce. Like it's a good one. Yeah. All right, the third game for me, my final entry for my three things I'm excited about coming up this week is the car game is officially coming out, Pacific Drive. We did play the demo for it, and I enjoyed the demo enough. I do think that it's going to be one I'm not going to play on stream because it requires so much brain that I simply could not talk. But if you haven't heard about this game, it is a game where you are trapped in some kind of weird hellscape, and all you have is your car. And you are also like gifted with a mechanic wand. And so you are able to repair the car and try and venture around this hellscape. So it is the car game. It's where you're just taking care of your car and hanging out with it and upgrading it and trying to survive in this space and venture out into the world. It's almost like if you were playing Elden Ring, but instead of an adventurer, you were a car. And
instead of torrents, you have a car. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of, it's a phrase that we use a lot on Nerdy Gritty, our podcast. It's anything can be good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can be good. That maybe the premise is you're in a car driving through a hellscape and you have a magic wand that helps you fix that car. That sounds really, really weird and goofy, but it also sounds super fun. And I'm really interested in this game now. It's just anything can be good, which is why it's so frustrating and shocking when things turn out as bad as they do sometimes, you know? So
totally. Yeah, this one's doing pretty good as far as reviews go.
Cool.
So it's like, as far as indies that are trying to be as hungry as this one is, I'm down to give it a try and give it some hours as soon as it RNGs up the list.
Yeah. My last one here is Lorcana's Into the Inklands. I don't know if we've got any Lorcana players out there, but the third set, Into the Inklands, is releasing this weekend, and I am thrilled as somebody who's a big old Disney nerd and somebody who loves TTRPGs and somebody who's not particularly happy with Wizards of the Coast and some of the practices they've been doing and the layoffs they've been doing. It has been a joy to me to be able to kind of put Magic in my back pocket for a while and play a lot of Lorcana. I've been opening some of the boxes on stream. I work at a local game store. That's my money-making job. And so being able to talk with customers and trade and all types of stuff like that, it has been so much fun. The game is delightful. It's not just fun Disney stuff. It's also just a good game. It's well made and plays really, really well. I love it, and I'm really excited. They're introducing a new mechanic of places to go, of locations, and I'm stoked, guys. Yeah, I'll be opening at least a couple of boxes on stream this weekend, so I'm excited for it.
It's one that I still wish I could find. I just haven't had any luck. I live pretty far. For a local game store, mine is not very local. And so I've got to drive a distance to try and support somebody other than Walmart. And sometimes Walmart will get them, but even then, for some reason, Lorcana has been a hard one to find even still. I found some boosters here and there, but still not an actual deck. So I'm curious about it. I continue to like look in from the outside and hope that I'll eventually be able to play it, longing really for a digital one. I know there's like a Discord server or something that's doing like a digital Lorcana, but it's pretty buggy. Like I'm ready for Lorcana to say, hey, we're Disney, we have money, let's make it and let's do it and do it right. And if Pokemon can do it, we can too. Pixelborn
is an online thing and it works very well. It takes a few steps to be able to actually get it to work, but I play online quite a bit in Pixelborn and it works really well. So Pixelborn, I recommend it. It's Lorcana and it's good.
Nice. Well, I will definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
I want to know it and I want to learn the rules of the game as well. So that'll be good. Wiseman says local store is doing Lorcana at MSRP. I can bring you a trove or packs or something to General Conference. Very good to know. I want at least enough to play with. I don't know if I need a full trove because I still have trouble storing all of my Pokemon cards. So I don't need too much.
Troves are mostly just the box. It comes with like 9 packs, but then it's just the box that you're getting out of it. So getting a trove is always nice for storage.
Kind of like an ETB in the Pokemon world, maybe.
Yeah. Exactly like that.
All right, well, with that, let's get into our final segment of the show and the final stinger for poor Steve. Meme of the week. All right, it is our meme of the week. Our meme of the week is from Maybe 30 Bats this time. It's a Power Rangers meme this time. We've got some crows hanging out and then the 3 crows hanging out. And the bad guy is just waiting, and the Power Rangers are introducing themselves one by one. And I mean, talk about like memes you can hear, right? Like 100%. Yes. I know exactly how it's going on and good stuff. Yeah. So bravo to Bats. Always a good one. If you would like to be considered for our meme of the week next week, then go join our Discord, !Discord in the chat. Be a part of the server. We have a memes and goofs channel. And typically I choose whatever one gets the most reactions. And that is what I try to pull from week to week. And this was the one that won out this time. I think Bats won last week too. So Bats is just on a roll, and you love to see it. Okay.
I'll have to get in there because as part of my job, I'm the social media manager for a local game store as well. And part of what I do is just share daily memes. And so literally about once a month, I take about 2 hours and I just dig through nerdy memes. And so I'll have to get in there and drop some of those.
I'm here for it. We might even be a place for you to pull from as well. You could utilize the hive mind that is Checkpoint, because we have some good ones in there.
100% yes.
That's awesome. Okay, well, as we get into the close of the show, I want to give you time to let us know, again, who you are, where you're from, where people can find you, follow you, do all of the social media things there.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Steve. SavePoint Steve on Discord. You're welcome to toss me a friend request if you want. I am the founder of SavePoint Ministries right back here. You can come check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/SavePointMin, or that's also all of our socials on Instagram and Facebook, SavePointMin. And then you can also find us on YouTube. Next week, we're going to be starting a big old series on YouTube of things that are demystifying the church for nerd culture. So it's going to be a lot of things that are just like explaining some Christianese, some churchy stuff with nerdy metaphor tied in there with it to help explain it to people, to if they're coming to church for the first time, to help them understand things. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be some cool stuff. So obviously, like I said, next week we're going to be playing Legends of Redfall on our channel. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This has been a blast. I really enjoyed this.
Yes, and we are, as we wrap up Twig, we are actually going to wrap up our stream. So what we normally do after Twig streams is we go and hang out in a Discord channel and just play games together, talk, have a debrief, talk about the news if you want to, or just hang out. Steve, you're certainly welcome to join us there, but I also know that you might have a life to get back to, and we appreciate the time that you've given here anyway. But anybody in the chat that wants to join us, that is what the plan is after I get through our full closing note spiel here. So know that we will be ending the stream, and we will be vanishing away into the wonderful place that we call the Checkpoint Discord. With that, this has been Twig, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show delivered live on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch every single week, keeping your family connected to the world of nerdy news. If you watched this far, you likely enjoyed this one, so remember to give us a 5-star on your favorite podcasting app. Click that like button over on YouTube and recommend this show to all of your favorite nerds. Thank you to our subscribers on Twitch that make this show and this ministry possible. Pineapple Pope 4, Wizen, Lemur, Hman 1009, Buish, Kung Fu Carl 21, Twyla 27, Sneaky Pig 633, Nerd Pastor Nate, Teeny Christina P, X Mayfly, Splash Force Gaming 2, Maybe 30 Bats, Deacon Shannon LS, Perspective Yakeem 4752, Strange Dunn, Zando Calrissian, and Jate Live. Is there Twig next week? Yes, indeed, there will be Twig again next week with one of our level 2 members signed on. With that, we're going to end this one as we always do with our 3 things that we believe to be true about every single one of you out there. Whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, go to church, don't go to church, hate God or hate church, we still believe them to be absolutely true about you. Number 1, that God loves you, like really, really loves you. Number 2, we love you. We want community with you. That's what we're doing here. And number 3, that you, yes, you matter. You are a person of sacred worth. The world is a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, until the next time that I see you, whether it's on SavePoint Men's chat or whether it is in our stream or whether it is in the Discord server right after this, I look forward to seeing you then. Till next time, bye-bye.
See you around, everybody. Thanks for having me.